Aloha. I'm Vincent Minna, President of Hawaii Farmers Union United, here to share with you today about a trial we're doing using dry land taro and biological methods in order to grow that taro. So come inside and check this out. What we've done so far is, as you can see with the grass here, this is old sugarcane land that was plowed up and was bare when we first worked in this area. The grass has since grown up to be over 2 feet tall here, but where we planted the taro, we've used IMO3, which is a preparation of culturing indigenous microorganisms onto mill run of wheat. And what that does is basically helps the proliferation of those microorganisms. We've spread those microorganisms down on the soil, and then we covered it with this mulch, which is sun hemp. Sun hemp is a cover crop, nitrogen fixing cover crop that was grown on the property, and we're taking the straw from that sun hemp and we've mulched next to the taro that we've planted. This was planted in January. As you can see, we're getting vigorous growth from this taro using these methods. No other fertilizer has been used other than crushed oyster shell calcium and gypsum, sulfur and calcium. Outside of that, the only other inputs that we've used is the IMO3, which is the indigenous microorganisms cultured on that mill run of wheat. As you can see, the soil here, right next to where the taro is growing, it's like adobe. I cannot even get my finger anywhere near going down into the soil. It's hard like a rock. Now you move over a couple feet to where we've put these indigenous microorganisms down onto the soil and covered them with the straw, and notice my finger just goes very easily through the soil. What we're talking about here is the relationship between microbial fungal roots and the plant roots. The microbial fungal roots that are developed from us laying down the indigenous microorganisms for that to culture and proliferate in the soil, which gives us the friability for my finger to be able to go down into the soil. Those fungal roots make available minerals for the plant roots to take up. And how this is done is that the fungal roots are so small that it's able to get in between the platelets of the soil that are microscopic, and those fungal roots go into the platelets. They access minerals off of those platelets, which are actually magnetized onto those platelets. They get those minerals, they bring it back to the plant roots. The plant roots are exuding proteins and sugars into the soil through photosynthesis. And in exuding those proteins and sugars into the soil, they exchange the proteins and sugars which the fungal roots live off of for the minerals that the fungal roots bring back to the plant roots. So there's that symbiotic relationship that goes on that truly makes the magic happen in the soil when you're dealing with the biological system. Now, in that biological system, it's so important for us to have a mulch cover. Now, that mulch cover produces food for the microbes to live off of, and also it holds the moisture into the soil. It doesn't allow the UVs to photodegrade the microflora that's there in that top 7 inches, because they need an environment that will continue to help them proliferate. So the beautiful thing about this mulch layer is it's made from sun hemp. It's been here since January. It continues to hang in there very strong, no weed pressure. Whereas you can see right next to me is over 2 foot tall grass growing in soil that is hard like adobe, 2 feet away from where these plants are growing. So this is a wonderful thing when you work in alignment and in concert with nature, because nature only wants to collaborate and cooperate. This is what the soil looked like when we first planted this trial that you see over here. And basically, what we envision doing is the same practice of putting the IMOs down and planting into these rows, and then in between the rows to do a series of cover crops for the life of that dry land taro. So as the dry land taro is growing, there's cover crops growing in here, and with each crop it gets rolled down and another cover crop planted in its place. So by the time that the taro grows up and becomes mature to be harvested, that line where the taro was growing will now be the cover crop line, and this line in here will be where the new taro grows. Rotational farming, biologically done, using Korean natural farming inputs. Here, beautiful downtown.